Let's talk about drive shafts and U-joints and drive shaft loops today. Frequently asked question, and it's one that's always puzzled me, is people will ask me, should I build a stronger or bigger drive shaft than the car had to start with? Well, if you're going to race the car or use it for any kind of performance driving or anything, you want as big a drive shaft, as strong a drive shaft as you can get for the application you're using it for. Now, the standard go-to, and my clients, when they ask, I usually tell them, because most of the time they don't even have a drive shaft because it's a project car, it's one they've resurrected, it was missing its drivetrain, that kind of thing. I just go ahead and go with a 1350 setup because we got to buy yokes and have a shaft made anyway. So, and most of them have some ungodly engine in them, making a lot of power. So you need the drive shaft as good as it can be. Several reasons. When drive shafts break, not only are they dangerous and parts can fly out from under the car and all that and hurt somebody, but at the very least, it usually tears up the tail shaft of the transmission. And sometimes it can even break the rear end and in an extreme case, blow the engine up. So you want to limit the possibilities. Like anything else you do when you're building a car, you want it to be stronger than it needs to be for the job it's doing. And a drive shaft is one of the most abused and really under-maintained pieces in a car. If you talk to most racers and talk about their preventative maintenance list, a lot of them will go right over, not even mention checking the U-joints, checking the drive shaft once or twice a season just to make sure it's okay. And like every other part of a car, a drive shaft is subject to cyclic failure, as in it's gone so many cycles of going around, launching hard, twisting, backing up, doing all the stuff we do. And if you got a high horsepower motor and think about how much force is being applied to it as it goes down the track, it's not so drastic as it's down track, but when it launches, it's taking, up to 20 times the load, depending on some of the calculations I've seen over the years, the amount of stress that's on that drive shaft. And then when you're going down track, it's not that it's got a lot of load on it because the car is moving and it's easier to speed a car up than it is to launch a car from a standstill. But a drive shaft is one of the fastest spinning parts in your car. So yes, you want as good a drive shaft as you can get. And 95% of the time, 1350 joint and a new shaft, will take care of that. Now, drive shaft loop. I've had a lot of clients over the years don't want to put a drive shaft loop on their car because it hangs out below the bottom of the car and you can see it. Or the car's got a little bit of a low ground clearance issue going on and it's a straight strip car and they can't go over speed bumps and things. Even sideways, sometimes a drive shaft loop will drag if the car's a little low. That shaft loop will save you a lot of trouble. The main reason it's there, and it's just pretty much it's common sense if you think about it. Here's your surface. Let's just draw two tires. Here's your drive shaft. Here's your front U-joint. Okay, U-joint breaks. You're doing 100 mile an hour down the drag strip. Drive shaft falls down. That's like a pogo stick or a pole vault stick. Back of the car goes up in the air. You just said fling. Car can fall over this way, car fall over that way, get somebody hurt, cause all kind of damage. Most of the time, if the drive shaft breaks in the front part here, the drive shaft loop will contain it. If it breaks, say here backwards, it's usually so short that it falls down and it'll kick the back of the car a little bit, but the shaft will usually fold over or break the U-joint off and come rolling out. That's why racetracks rails usually have no more than an inch or two gap here at the bottom if you look down the track, so that anything flying out from under the car just kind of hits there and bounces off. Now, it can still trip over the rail and all, and it's just not a good situation when the shaft breaks. Now, as you go up into the higher horsepower cars, so now let's say we got a tube chassis. I'm going to exaggerate this a little bit. You got a big tire car. When you look inside the transmission tunnel of a big tire car, if you have like a Spec 25 chassis or something, and you look in there, a Pro Stock, the drive shaft actually goes through a cage in the middle of the car that even has bars going across. Now, I'm drawing them in the wrong place because they would be inside, welded to the other side of the tube like typical tube construction. But it basically encases the drive shaft. That way it can't do anything but rattle around right in there. Because if you think about it, the driver in that style car is sitting right next to the drive shaft. So it's beneficial and necessary to contain it. And it's got a nice heavy aluminum or sheet metal enclosure around it, on top of having all the bars in there. Now, some of them are exposed, but not very many, and there's at least a shield on the driver's side of it. I've seen it done different ways. I like to see it totally wrapped myself, and most rules require that now. But that is just a quick why we have to deal with drive shaft loops. They are necessary. They're an incredible addition to the safety of your car. Yes, you do have to do preventative maintenance on them. And a 1350 setup, 1350 U-joint setup, will cover most everything as far as your basic sportsman car until you start getting up into top fuel and on, and they use different kind of connectors and things to hook things up, and that's just a whole nother world that most of us won't ever get into. But there you go. A quick about drive shafts, U-joints, and drive shaft loops. So, oh, and another thing, I just thought of another question that's been asked about U-joints. Is there any benefit to using the non-greasable kind? Well, if you put them together careful and make sure you keep everything clean, like I always say, keep everything as clean as you can. You're not going to get it surgical, but the less dirt you get in there, the better. The non-greasable U-joints are actually stronger because they don't have the channels drilled in them for the grease to pump out to the trunnion caps. So you got more metal there. The downside, you can't grease them. The good side, they're, depending on who you ask and what manufacturer you talk to, they're 10 to 25% stronger because they don't have that hole through them. So, yeah, there's some benefit there. Yes, you would have to replace them more frequently because you can't grease them. But they also balance better because they don't have the little zerk fitting sticking out the side of them. Not that it's a huge deal, but when you start getting into high end and every bit of horsepower and you're turning stuff really fast, the more weight you can take off, unbalanced weight you can take off, the better. So that little zerk fitting that only weighs fractions of an ounce can probably weigh 5 pounds when the drive shaft's really spinning. So there you go. Hope you found this entertaining, interesting, informational, useful. As always, practice your skills, learn a new one. Either way, turn them into craftsmanship. Until next time, this has been Fab Race Mod Repeat. Have a great day.